Hello and welcome to Take It From the Top.
The singer's guide to working, thriving and surviving in the music industry.
Don't forget to hit subscribe and head over to our YouTube channel where you can leave us your comments and questions.
Shall we take it from the top?
Let's do it. This week we have my wonderful friend, my dear friend, Jamie Squire.
Welcome to our little set.
Thank you for having me.
You've had quite a fabulous career in singing and the music industry, so give us a little overview of what you've done. And
Like many of us, I've been doing it for a very long time. I started when I was very, very young. My dad was an entertainer, and so I kind of was keeping an eye on him on stage and thought, well, I fancy giving that a go. From that, it's just been a discovery of what I want to do in music, and I don't actually know whether I've discovered it yet. I've just been doing lots of different things. Had a talent for it when I was quite young, and here we are. And Hayley got me involved in a few things. And
Yeah, it's all my fault.
Mhm.
I destroyed your artistic integrity, basically. But yeah, let's start with your dad, actually, because it's really interesting. He's the old triple threat, right?
Yeah,
And he was
very much so.
comedian.
Yeah.
So you're very different performers. Although you said you want to do that, I think, obviously, I first met you doing Trevor Horn. So again, probably not doing something that's in your vein, because at that point you were running around on stage in a T-shirt singing Relax.
Yes.
we've all done that.
But your voice just stood out. It was amazing and genuinely... Oh, I don't like being nice to Jamie. But you have got one of my favourite voices of all time. But I think of you very much of that singer-songwriter, sort of, not country, but that sort of element, acoustic guitar voice. Like, I just love listening to you sing. And even in that capacity in Trevor Horn's band, I could just hear this voice and it was just amazing. And yeah, annoyingly, I then dragged you into the session world, which you hadn't actually been a part of as such.
Yeah, the branding of the session musician thing I've had for a while, but I've never really understood what it is. I've never really seen myself with that label. My dad was like I said, was an entertainer and a comedian, sort of like old style variety comedy. So sing, song, dance, and all that kind of thing. And he, from a very young age, with his elder brother and younger sister, had a really successful family act in the clubs in the Northeast.
And can we talk about how serious the club circuit was, even when I was younger? Like,
well, it was a big deal then.
Massive deal.
It's easily overlooked now because it's just it's run down, and I don't think there are very many left.
No.
To be honest.
But 30 years ago, you could come up with hundreds of people's names who'd started
Everyone
in clubs.
started
That's where
there.
you did it.
And you had to be really good. The audience is there. I remember, was it they
savage.
wouldn't clap in the first half?
Yeah,
To decide whether you were good.
Yeah. It was the beginnings of a lot of massive careers. I mean, my dad had a club in the Northeast, and they had like Jerry and the Pacemakers in there, and loads of other these classic acts. They were all club acts. That's where they all started. And as far as my dad was concerned, that was a great place to sort of cut your teeth and learn your craft. He'd spent a long time doing that, and then he had some success in TV. He had 3 TV shows in the late 70s to early 80s.
And we were looking at those pictures last night.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I discovered an episode of one of his shows last night that I hadn't seen before. And so he was able to sort of propel himself out of that for a moment, but he always had a fairly strong connection to that world. And so then when I turned up, he recognized a bit of talent in me. And so he thought, it's why I've had a strange relationship with the session thing, because as a session musician, you're sort of seen as almost like a facilitator. You're recreating as opposed to creating. And when you're young and you're sort of unhinged and there's no pressure, you just want to create things.
Yeah.
Whether it's musical, whether it's
That's where
playing
you
with
started.
toys, messing
It's
around
the
in...
love.
Yeah. But my dad's success was always there. And so he saw me as an opportunity to go, okay, well, I my son can be an extension of my career. And so I did not necessarily comedy, but I found myself in the social clubs from like 13 or 14.
You were playing
I was
keyboards,
playing drums and
weren't you?
keyboards for my dad, you know, and as much as that was a huge lesson, I learned an awful lot about what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. That world was dwindling as I was coming into it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As was the world of alternative comedy. At that time, when Dad had his success with TV, it like building and bubbling was Ben Elton.
Oh,
you know,
really?
like the young ones. The young ones were filmed in the studio directly next door to my dad's show.
So that must have been so difficult.
So can you
for
imagine
him,
how
like
much-
so different?
So Dad was almost seen as the savior of alternative entertainment, variety entertainment. At the time when alternative was just flying and it was just going to explode. You know, the time of the Oxford Footlights and Rowan Atkinson and Stephen Fry, all of that stuff was bubbling. And so some performers from the variety world were able to jump ship and ride that alternative wave. Yeah. Dad didn't do it because he'd been from such a young age performing in all of in very much the sing-song dance man type thing.
And
kind
you
of
said
was
to me,
stuck with it. You know,
he wanted to be a singer, really.
He just wanted to be a singer, but he ended up being a comedian because people found him funny, and so it was a means of making money as a young performer.
But all of them could do that in those days. They could all sing really well.
You had to be good. If you
like,
weren't
really
good, you
well.
didn't stand a chance. Yeah, and those rules still apply today, but not quite in the same capacity. So,
well, no, you don't see Jimmy Carr singing, bursting into song, do you? No.
But there's some of the sort of hangovers out there. People like Brian Connolly, they were a real hangover of that, and but tried to reinvent it in the sort of 90s whilst the alternative scene was coming on. But they tried desperately to hang on to that idea that sing, dance, act.
Well, even
comedy.
Freddie Starr could sing,
exactly.
actually.
Yeah. Having gone through that with like your dad and seeing your dad, was it good for you to be forced to almost have a different route, because it had the comedy and club scene carried on. It would have been really easy just to have followed in and just tagged.
Yeah.
But of course, because that was dying, you kind of had to find your own niche.
Establish yourself.
Yeah. It's strange because a lot of my friends at school or peers, they were all riding the cool wave of the alternative thing, whereas I stuck with Dad a little bit because I was like, he's my dad, and I at that time, and I still do, I've always idolized him. He had lots of variables in his personality, shall we say, that he was a complex character, but raw talent, like unbelievable. And I know it more now than I did then, because obviously as you experience it yourself, you kind of go, Jesus Christ, he was good, and so I stuck with him for a lot of time. So I know a lot about that world that my friends know nothing about, because that was not their scene. So I felt I should stick with Dad, but then, as time comes on, I start listening to stuff, and he's like, "What's this shit you're listening to?" And it then becomes a bit unfashionable, I was asking myself this question the other day: if I was to go back and would I do it differently? Would I pursue music differently? And I think I probably would, which I know is not the common way is to go, no, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm proud of who I am and all the rest of it, which is a huge part of my personality. But in terms of my direction getting into the music industry, I probably would have changed a couple of things. Like, I've got a 1-year-old son, obviously very, very young, so he doesn't know what he wants to do yet, but he'll have every opportunity if he wants to be in the entertainment industry. He's certainly be able to, and he'll have all the means to be able to do that. But I don't think I would encourage him to go down the facilitating, the wedding band, the club band, the corporate side of things. I don't think I would push him down that world, because there's a level of freedom when you're just making music for yourself, good, bad, or indifferent, within a band with your friends, as opposed to 2 45-minute sets.
Yes.
In a, it's a different...
Singing someone else's stuff.
Yeah, and then from an outsider's perspective, they go, well, that's just a world in entertainment. That's just a world as being a musician. I've always seen the two worlds. I've always had a conflict between those two positions. So, and I see that side of things as a session thing, but then true artistry is like creating from
I think
nothing.
they're completely different. And I think I assumed I could do both because I started off, I was still writing, I was in the studio, and then gigs, money starts coming in.
It changes it.
It changes it, and you don't spend time on that. And then because you're so, I have to sing this way tonight, or I'm doing a jazz gig tonight, I'm doing Trevor's gig tonight, I'm doing whatever. Although it's nice to have different influences in your creative space, you just change. It's one of those things that I think you have to give up everything to be an artist and just focus on that. Like, I can't imagine Kate Bush or David Bowie or these people selling out in that sense. The creative process is the most important thing to them.
Well, I can remember being in a band with Matty from the 1975. Him and I have been best friends our entire lives. And we were in little bands together as kids growing up. And then his mum got a job at Coronation Street. So they moved from the northeast down to Cheshire. So I had the first sort of 12, 13 years of him when we were completely inseparable. And then things changed, and that's where he met the guys and turned what we now know as the 1975 into this big thing. But before all that, him and I had been creating and writing songs and just doing our thing and being friends in music, completely unhinged. There was nothing to it. We just did it. But the one interesting thing which I do think about a lot about that period is I can remember when we do little gigs together, or whether it be a charity golf event that our dads were playing at, and so we were get the young'uns up, they'll do a song. I always knew how to set the drums up. I always knew how to set the guitar amps up. I always was the one that knew how to do all that stuff. And so because of that knowledge, you then become the guy that does it all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember it used to fucking drive me mad where he wouldn't know how to set up a drum kit.
Yeah.
He'd just rock up.
He'd just fucking rock up, and he had his hair slicked up and his his shirt top button undone. And I'd be like, who's this dick, Now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get it, because he didn't have any of this stuff in his periphery. It was like, I want that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do that. And I'm not interested in all the rest of it. And so sometimes that personality is a bit sort of Marmite. You either like it or you hate it.
But you need it, I think, to be the artist.
Exactly.
Because I think I had this band, the Stylophones, which I loved, but I'd created this whole story. I was a character. I wasn't me. And I think actually as an artist, you need to be you. Actually, you need to connect a bit.
Yeah.
They want to see who you are. I'd created this project, I think. I loved writing the stories. I loved directing. I loved coming up with these visuals. Like, it was a full film, like, every time. I was just so over the top with it. But I was obsessed with everything else that was going on, not me. I was thinking about, right, this shot needs to be here, and you need to be playing this on this part. You need to... And I was so obsessed with that, and I loved being that side of the camera. And then the second I had to go into it, because I had to sell it, my brain just wasn't there, because I was just not...
It's a different part of the brain.
It is a different part.
And
I would much prefer to... I love being the other side. I love finding singers. I love thinking about, this would work for them. I love, deep down, I think... Although every session singer thinks they could be a star or want to be,
you can see how the big band, why they have teams and teams and teams of people just pedaling behind the scenes constantly to allow them to do
to allow them to have that freedom to create. But also, when I say allow them to have that freedom, I think if it's really inbuilt in you, there isn't even a discussion about it. You wouldn't need to find the time. I think you just do it.
You just do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the not thinking. It's the just doing.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries. If there are, you can't see them.
Yeah.
And so at that over time I've learned that. But I had my opportunity at the artist side of things. I mean, the word artist gets thrown around quite a lot these days. But I had my go at that. I signed a deal in New York in 2009, which was very exciting in the early days, and I was like, this is my chance. And I can remember at that time, Matty and the lads, they were searching for a deal and they couldn't get one. And then it was a record contract to a degree, but there was a bit more. It was at the time when the 360 deals were being created, which was basically you sign everything away. But it was very exciting in the early years, and then it all kind of went a bit pear-shaped. And it's taken me a long time to get out of that contract. But I had my opportunity to become that artist. If I think about it now, I didn't really know what it meant at that time and what was required of me to become a successful artist, because I'd always had this understanding of how it all worked. And I had quite a sort of a reservation about my personality. I'd keep myself to myself quite often. Like, for example, doing this podcast now, I've seldom do I do these things because I tend not to tell people about my life, you know. In that early period of that deal, I found it very difficult to try and, because you're right, everyone wants to know more about you.
They want to connect with you.
As well as the music, you know.
They want to see your vulnerabilities, your confidence, your every side of you.
And that was perhaps more than I wanted to share. Through that, I then sort of discovered the more of a facilitator role in music, that I could still be in music, and it just didn't have to be in that capacity. But like I said earlier, I'm still wrestling with that concept. I still don't know where I place myself.
Well, also because your voice isn't, I think it's really difficult to discuss session singing as well, because there's so many different jobs.
Yeah.
There's so many different jobs. And your voice is still you. You're very much you when you sing. You have a unique talent, and your voice, like, is wonderful. And it's not like you're coming in doing impressions or blending as such. You do blend and you listen, but that isn't where you come from. But I think that's why Strictly works for you as well, because there's a lot of session singers who are brilliant at blending and sitting in the back.
I would say all of that applies to you as well.
Yeah, I totally
absolutely
agree.
applies to you.
It does,
because like you can hear you. I can hear you. I mean, I've known you for a long time, so I can hear you a mile away.
I know, it's because
there is that kind of.
That's why.
But it's you. That's what I mean. It's that whole idea of you, not pastiching or parodying, but bringing and going. Actually, my artistry is to bring myself to this, but bring a performance with integrity that actually sounds like I'm being asked to perform.
Yeah.
But I'm still there. It's still my art as well.
It's
can't
like
remove me from that.
We talked about the other day that I love connecting with the song, and if I don't feel like I've connected with it, then I've not done my job. And I can't just come in and sing and nail the notes, because there is that, especially with Strictly phrasing. You can't be free.
No.
Even an improv line, you have to copy with the exact timing. And so to then do that and make it sound like the first time you've ever sung it. So I walk away,
make it meaningful and make it emotional, and
if I haven't connected, I get so upset, because
for me the sort of slightly insecure part of my personality in that role is I really enjoy the characterful stuff.
Yes.
So whether it was the Muppet Show theme tune or something like that. I did Bonkers last night, Dizzy Rascal, you know, nuts. But I enjoy that because I can lean right into it and really ham it up, and that means that I then don't have to think about
trying
the
to be
authenticity.
truthful and,
I can just be a character.
Yeah.
You know, much I'm sure the way an actor would think about, you know, falling into a role. It's that kind of thing. Well, I can just leave me over here for a minute and I can just go and be ridiculous for a minute and a half. And that I'm really comfortable with that.
Yeah. So if just thinking about what we're doing in this podcast, so if you were talking to someone who asked you the question, how do I keep my artistic integrity but do all the things I need to do to get where I need to be? How do you conquer that? Because starting out, it's not easy to just be an artist.
No, there's I mean, firstly, there's no one solution. You know, it's different for everybody. There's millions of different ways you can find your place, but it's difficult, you know, because it's very competitive. I mean, the industry's always been very competitive, but now, because we have access to everybody around the world at all times, whenever we want it, there's this sort of almost desperation to, I must be doing something like this, or I have to do this now, otherwise I'm not going to be able to do it ever again. And so there's this intensity that comes. I don't know if back in the day creative people thought like that. They just did it.
Yeah.
You know, so there has to be an adjustment now.
Well, I was going to talk to you about this actually, because again, back then they would create, and it very much, I think the labels would be like, you have to go and do a second album then they would go away and do the second album, then present it. Then they might argue with what should be the single and whether something should be released, but definitely that was left alone. And I think now, don't you, at working with young artists, you get a lot of A&R people that come in and halfway through a mix or a demo, they're still they're getting involved on what should be the song or whether it's a hit. You've not even had time to finish it half the time, right?
Well, time is a big aspect, because there is nowhere near as much time as there used to be.
Just to be clear, Jamie writes and produces with artists as well, because otherwise that made absolutely no sense. But that's what you're doing as well. Yeah, alongside.
They've all been Wikipediaing him whilst we've been talking.
Yeah, I bet they
They're
have.
sitting there tapping away Googling what
I
these
don't know
young
how much
people are like.
about me is on Wikipedia.
Nothing. Jamie is not a social.
Jamie's nothing.
He's not a social. He's not a social butterfly, is Jamie? Not online or in real life.
Well, again, that's the sort of slight insecurity about my life in the industry. People would like me, I'm sure, or would assume that I would be telling everybody about my life, posting things on social media. I think my last post on social media,
1975.
I don't. Every time I've attempted to do that,
It makes yourself feel a bit sick.
Yeah, before I hit the post button or what, I go, and I delete it, because I just go, is it really that interesting? Now, maybe some people might find it quite interesting, but to get me over that threshold, I'm just like, I don't know and then I back out.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about your journey through artistry and in getting into the industry, but the thing we're really interested in terms of this podcast and what we talk about is advising young people going into the industry about what's kind of expected of them, and production and studio work is obviously a big part of your life. So can we talk a little bit about how you interact with singers, what you expect of them, how the production process really works, the stuff that they're not going to get taught in their lessons. They're in a studio. How does it work? What's your expectations?
If I have a writing session with a young artist, my main goal, there's a phrase that a friend of mine and myself use all the time, and we say we've got no business leaving that session without a song. We no matter what it is, no matter what capacity, we're going to have a song. But one of the main things that I try to instill in artists that come into the studio with me is there is zero pressure, because I feel that the pressure surrounding them outside of that studio room is that I must achieve this. I must achieve this. Now, we probably will end up with a song. Like I say, we've got no business but at least trying to get something, whether it's just a verse or a chorus. But time and time again, artists will come in and go, my A&R or my manager says I need this and I need this and I need this, and I'm always like, fuck them. It's not about them, it's about you. And I'm not trying to be like a rebel, but if you set those restrictions before you've even started,
there's a pressure.
You're not going to get anything that's
creative?
Pure, And so I just kind of try my best to rid them of all of that. And it's not that I don't respect the A&Rs and the managers that represent them. Of course I do, because they have an essential role in order to get what we create over the line, But at that first creative stage, I don't want any of the fodder. I don't want any of the other stuff. I just want to get to the purest version of what they are and who they are and what they want to be and what they want to create. That's really exciting to me. Again, using the term that I used earlier was creating rather than recreating. That is the best part of my life in the industry now. It's the most exciting part, and it's also the part that pays no money. It's completely speculative. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if what you do get is going to be liked by anybody else. There's no money in writing sessions, really. A recent thing that's been passed through the government where major labels are now supposed to pay 75 quid to the writer. It's complicated.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah. It's
That
a
won't even
complicated
get you shopping
thing.
from Aldi, will it?
No.
Not these days.
Other supermarkets are available. Revealed quite a lot about yourself there.
So again, though, but the two existences and the two worlds of the session thing, I'm not really going to go and do a session thing unless I'm going to get paid for it. Whereas with that, I'm not getting paid for it, and that's the thing that I enjoy more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting.
Kind of feels like that's always the way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The bit that you love doing most.
Yeah.
Is the bit you're going to have to do
but
just because you love it.
It might reward you in the future.
Yeah.
But at that point,
It's not about
you
that.
you can't be going into a writing session trying to make money. That's not. You got to ignore all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And there has been a few artists along the way that have come in and said, right, in order for me to, like, no uncertain terms, but in order for me to achieve what I want to achieve, I need to have something like this, or I need a song that sounds like this. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right person to work with you, because that's not the way I think music should be created.
You're kind of setting yourself up to fail in a minute, because...
Well, I feel sorry for artists now, because they do have that pressure, and I don't think that it was as bad as that years and years ago. I think now it's definitely... Like, I definitely look at the Lewis Capaldi thing and watching his documentary and stuff, and I just feel the pressure he had to, you have to get a hit as good as that first one. This is what we're aiming for. And you can hear in those early records that he was just writing and it was just happening.
And the reason they were good is because he was just writing and not forcing
no pressure.
Yeah.
And then the second you add that level onto it, I just don't know how...
You mentioned earlier on about the second album thing. You know, people can spend... years, their formative years, making their first album.
Yes.
And then when the second album comes around, it's like life or death.
Yeah.
Now what?
You've
What
got a period of time where you have to make it. You've got to have it mixed and mastered and all the rest of it. I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
It's really fucking hard to do the second one. And if you can do the second album, then you're probably going to be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, a first album is an accumulation of songs you've written since you were a child, maybe, you know.
Yes.
And then you've got to write them out of thin
And
air.
the struggles and the thing. And then you get to the, I'm just Jenny from the block.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, what have you got? What are your troubles now?
Yeah.
But that's it. So the
My
artists,
house is too big.
the artists who come into a commercial songwriting session tend to be the people that have had some success and now they're
Right.
looking for their next success. Nowadays, it's very single based. No one makes records the way they used to make them.
They really don't, do they?
albums.
No. It's...
Like the idea of a concept album is a little bit sort of few and far between.
Do you think our culture's got something to do with that? Because
Absolutely.
everything's instant.
The McDonald's culture.
Yeah. You get a piece of a song, even a motif, and it's out there already.
Yeah.
Look what I've just written, and all of a sudden you go, oh, that's already out there now. So there's no time to create.
Unless you're already an artist, like if you are Beyonce and everyone's waiting and they know that date's coming. Or then she did the secret drop. Do you remember when no one knew and everyone woke up and was like, oh my God, there's a new Beyonce album.
Yeah.
But the added complexity to that, of course, is that the artists now know that. So it's intimidating to make something long form.
Yeah.
Because they know they could put their heart and soul into something that could easily be gone.
Yes.
And it's gone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Never to be seen again. I don't envy young artists. It's really hard now. Really, really hard.
So talk to me a little bit about learning that process then, and how you can create in that pressure. Because as much as it's easy to say, you know, we're just about the product here. There is that pressure. How do you combat that?
I mean, it sounds so cliche, but just try and be the purest version of yourself you can possibly be. And sometimes that takes a journey of discovery outside of music, outside of, you know, to bring in some. It doesn't mean that you have to then tell the entire world about your innermost secrets or the most, you know, traumatic stuff from your domestic life. It's not that. It's just the best thing you can do as an artist is be your purest version. Because that can't be replicated.
But also I'd say to switch off the noise, because there's so many voices, and especially now online, you've got thousands, if you're a star, of voices telling you probably you're deep... and if you've got an insecurity, because even on a small basis, you get it on Strictly, you know what your weaknesses are. And when you see it in print, it's like, I already know that, and now you've just... agreed with me, and now my whole life is over. Now imagine being a star and getting told that all the time, and then having to go and be creative.
Yeah.
I mean, and you want to, I would suggest that they switch off their phones and turn the noise off for a while. But then I imagine the managers as well are like, you need more content. You need to stay visible. You need to, I just don't know how you would do it.
No. I would love to be able to listen to music just like a normal consumer and be able to fall in love with something. I know how it all works. I know exactly what's going on, how they created it.
People don't get it. They do not get it at all.
No.
Like, you know,
No.
I know people who are not musicians, and something drives you mad about it. That whole the sort of left side of your ear starts ticking, and you go, and they're going, you go, no, and unless you understand what it is to know music intricately, you'll never get that whole.
But even watching a film, anything, I'm so like
absolutely.
sitting there a notepad, like
I do.
slagging everything off.
But I'll go. Sometimes you can be watching TV and a piece of music comes on that you've never heard before, and you go, God, that's a really nice chord progression.
Yeah.
And people just go,
They've not even noticed it's happening.
No.
Yeah.
But then I tell you, having a daughter now at the age of 7, that's changed how I hear music. Because I'd hear pop and I'd just be like, oh, it's just so generic, or it's so obvious. It's a chord sequence that I'm not understanding what's going on. I'm not bothered. But she looks at me and she's like, but mummy, it gives me so much strength. Like, this makes me feel powerful, this song. And then I stop and I listen to the lyrics, and there's this like young girl singing about being a powerful woman. And I'm like, how am I just erasing that and saying it's not important? Of course it's important. It's important to someone. Obviously my daughter's not going to connect with Paul McCartney the way I would, or Frank Sinatra's 60-year-old voice, you know.
What did we have in our youth? S Club 7. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't quite. Yeah.
We weren't lucky enough to.
No, but I think you can easily erase something that isn't.
You can.
Oh, it's not complicated enough for my ear. When actually there's a reason behind all music, isn't there?
Again, that's another complexity between the session world and the writing world, because the requirements of you in terms of the knowledge in order to be a successful session musician, when we're in the studio writing something from scratch, I'm desperately trying to unlearn all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want any of those, because that's also boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to go, well, that chord doesn't technically work. It doesn't fucking matter. If that's what they feel like, then we're going to go with that.
Yeah.
And that's taken me a long time to get to that point. That, even when Matty would send me things that he was doing years ago, I'd go, that doesn't work. Now I go, it's great. How didn't I see it?
So that's a trap I find really hard to get out of, because I was classically trained and was brought up as an organist, going Bach harmony is the best and it's the only rules there should be. And and even now, I find it really hard to kind of switch that off and go, actually, this does work.
Your brain is trained with correct harmony. This is where it should go.
And my natural inclination is to try and correct it and go, oh no, if we just do that, my eyebrows will stop going up.
Oh, we did on a Will Young tour, he did a live version of one of the dance remixes of his songs. Okay. And when they obviously put the harmonies over the top of completely different chords that didn't work. And they were like, right, let's do it. And everyone started singing, and we were singing this wrong chord, and I was like, that's not right. And they were looking at me going, yeah, but that's what we're going to do. And my voice wouldn't allow me to sing this wrong note. But obviously I'm frustrating everyone in the room, because they're like, we don't care about your musical integrity. Like, this is what we want you to do. You have to just do it.
Yeah. So do you find yourself in the studio sometimes going, should we just have a look at that? Should we just...
Yeah. I mean, there's glaring moments where you go, okay, well...
That's just wrong.
I need to just fix that. But I can do stuff, retrospectively after they've left. I can just tweak a couple of bits.
And they'll never know.
They
do now.
But no, I try to be as free as possible. Yeah. I mean, I do like to try and push their boundaries a little bit, because, a lot of young artists come in and say, I'd like a song like this, which happens to be on the radio at the time, or the top 10. It's like Johnny been released a few days, and I want a song like that. And I go, well, why? Because they've just done it. What's the point in competing with that? Why don't we try and create something completely fresh? Yeah. And then I had one lad come in and say, I just like listening to classic stuff. And I'm like, excellent. Who do you mean? I'm thinking Beatles, Stones, Bowie. Yeah, I like just classic stuff, like Adele, Ed Sheeran.
No.
And I was just like, oh, wow, And maybe for very old.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, Jesus,
I know my reference still when I say, something modern like Rihanna. I'm like, oh, God.
I'm like something modern. Ivan Novello.
Yeah.
But so it's much more of a kind of, you're like mentor / teacher / producer / friend and support.
Oh, I wouldn't ever go to you for therapy. You'd be the worst person ever. It's so judgmental. No, he's really harsh.
Is he? Oh.
We both are.
Well, we have to sit next to each other at Strictly for like 14 hours a day. If you can imagine in the 14th hour,
test
we
your
just want
friendship.
to kill each other.
You say that, but then we'd spend 3 hours on the journey home analysing and discussing the performance.
I know. God.
So do you take your producer sort of mentor head that we've talked about into the studio yourself when you're in front of a mic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a thing that you can't really switch off. I think it's just I tend to approach everything that I do with a similar level of enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm in some cases. But yeah, I my brain works the way it works in terms of what I like and dislike about music and how it's made.
Yeah.
But are you self-editing? So when you're doing a take, in the middle of a take, are you thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I can already hear what they'll do with it. And so that, from a session point of view, I can give them something that'd be really useful for them to do.
God, he's very good. I mean, I find myself teaching and saying things and thinking, God, it'd be funny you did this yourself. You'd be actually quite good.
Oh no, teaching's a completely different vibe, because I do that. I look at people like, you've got so much tension in your jaw, just relax. And then I go to sing on Strictly like this.
I tried teaching when I was younger and I was terrible at it. I don't really know why, but it's just something that has never really sat too comfortably with me. But if we are sort of collaborating, and then I can offer. So because I used to be the young guy in these sessions, and now I'm not.
We all did. We were all the young ones.
I'm now the sort of wisdom giver, and I'm like, well, Jesus, you know.
But I find that with you. I mean, exactly the same. I do teach. I don't teach piano because I can't understand why people can't do it. I can't do that journey. I think it's a real skill.
It is a skill
to take someone on a journey from not being able to do something to being able to do something. And I can't do that middle bit. I can show someone and go, this is how you do it, and I can't understand them why they can't. But when you, with the teaching I do, certainly for like degree students and stuff, it feels more collaborative because they know their craft already, and you're just honing it and you're helping them kind of teach themselves in many ways. And that's the kind of teaching.
Giving them a fishing rod.
You are. So she's so deep. She's so deep.
Lovely.
But being Mr. Producer, can you take your own advice? I suppose.
I'd like to think so. Yes. I mean, my world as a producer has only really been the last couple of years because, as I mentioned, that deal I signed a long time ago, it put a lot of restrictions on what I was able to do. In my head, I just couldn't get myself into a place where I could create something, whether it's writing it or
I was going to say, did you stop being creative and writing as well when you knew you couldn't do anything?
Well, they already owned half of it before I'd even conceived the idea. Wow. And if you think about that from a creative person,
stifles you.
It's horrendous.
Someone owns your thoughts.
Yeah. It felt so restricting and so stifling that to the point where, I mean, I moved to London for a couple of years because that was the advice early on in that deal, which was good advice, I'm very pleased that I did live in London for a couple of years, and then sort of battled around trying to find little bits of work and work with different people, and some things were successful, some things weren't, all very sort of low level, just trying to get a foot in the door. And then another family friend of ours, Alan Clark, who's the keyboard player in Dire Straits, he was
the loveliest man ever.
He's the best, and he was putting together a Dire Straits band with original members, and he put his faith in me to be the second keyboard player. And so I was then put in rehearsal rooms and then onto festival stages all around the world with these veteran musicians, Steve Ferroni, Phil Palmer, and so I learned an awful lot from them about performing. I learned an awful lot about them in terms of music production. I learned a lot about how it was done in they'd say the golden years.
But again, that's a very band music based scenario, which is completely different to the modern thing.
So you two need to stop reminiscing because we could totally talk for ages. So I think what we'll do is we'll stretch this into a second episode. So we'll round off and then we'll pick this up again in a later episode. Thank you for joining us for our lovely.
Who knew Jamie was that interesting? Oh my goodness!
I knew the moment he walked in. I thought this is going to be,
magic.
I know, right? And it was. So we'll talk more. Should they subscribe or something?
Absolutely. Hit subscribe and head over to our YouTube channel where you can view us physically and leave some comments and questions.
Indeed. So join us next time when we take it from the top.
Bye.